What are the big questions, parking results and performance, what are the big questions that Borthwick will want answers to this November?
9 with Mitchell out.
Yep. And therefore, who would you go with? Van Portfleet, Spencer?
It's so open. He has said, I think, on record that he knows who his first choice is, which leads me to think that it's Jack Van Portfleet because that is the most familiar he is, and he was a front runner before Mitchell went from fourth choice to first choice. But that just goes to show how quickly it can change. If he wants to go, I think if he wants to go with the really zippy phase play that has really engaged fans, I think Harry Randall's your guy. I think if you want to put faith in somebody that's been really good domestically for a while, as he did to really good effect with Earl and Marchant, those two guys hadn't established themselves in England before the last World Cup, and then they went really well. Ben Spencer, if Ben Spencer played every week like he did in the Premiership final, he'd be a shoo-in. He's kicks off both feet.
Yeah, Spencer to start.
Spencer to start.
Yeah, not enough in Van Portfleet's locker just yet, and performed okay. I still think they'll view Harry Randall as a number 21 at best, and they might go 6 forwards, 2 backs, in which case he'd be 22. Yeah. I think the guy who's been consistently outstanding is Spencer. I'm genuinely unsure as to why he's had so few caps.
Can you put it? I mean, unsure why, but can you?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. No one's ever said.
Is it a sort of a vocal thing? Is it a
cameos haven't gone well, but that is a really tough way to cast someone aside, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're coming in. I mean, what sticks in my mind is the really long setups for the box kicks at Murrayfield, and then not really as a first test. When Mitchell, what tells you everything you need to know is that Mitchell didn't come off in the second test in New Zealand, because that was England's ticket to breaking down the All Blacks, was just how pivotal he is and how important his pace around the fringes is.
Which I believe Spencer can do as well. He can play that style. He does play that style. I think his kicking game is outstanding, and therefore a little bit like saying Dan Cole can only scrummage. He does. He amazingly, he's sort of reinvigorated himself like Benjamin Button. He now does a little more. But Spencer can really play.
Yeah.
I honestly, he's probably top of my list over the past 3 or 4 years of how has he not played more times for England. And I understand. Remember, Steve didn't even pick Mitchell for the World Cup. He only went because he didn't want him in he wasn't one of his best 3 scrum-halves. It was because Jack did his ankle against Wales in July of 23. Sport and sliding doors moments.
Extraordinary. You mentioned Dan Cole. Is tight head an area of concern, or do we just keep going with Dan Cole and Will Stewart?
The only player whose caps are down here, Will Stewart, which is a surprise that he's got that many. I think that
42,
42, which I wouldn't.
So I've read a couple of times that Will Stewart has to now make his move from sort of. Why are you laughing? You know what I'm saying, though? He's got to go from.
So I'm back on the Netflix thing with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they're saying, haven't you got to lose? Haven't you got to lose before you can win the NBA? And they're like, well, we lost last year. It's like with Will Stewart. How many? I think he looks in unbelievable shape. What he does is I know you've got to nail down your basics. I get it, which he does. He can handle, he can play. He's had a couple of little blips and but everyone makes an error. But when he makes an error, it's like, let's go back to safety blanket. I don't think England should be in any way worried about Will Stewart as a tight head prop at Test match level. I think he's a gun player.
He was excellent in the loose in New Zealand, but it's those things.
He salvaged the draw 2 years ago.
He did,
didn't he? For the double.
He can play. He can play. And he's had a sensible. Tell you what he's done. To take away what he's done, he's had a sensible haircut at tight head prop, because before people didn't like that.
You don't like
waiting for a tight head with a moulet, makes an error. He's not focused on his game, is what people will say.
God. Dan Cole and Trevor Davison aren't dabbling in moulets.
No.
But quite Bill Bailey if Dan Cole went through, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And the harder one is probably a loose head to. Because you could literally talk yourself into riddles as to whether you're planning for the future, whether you just want a solid scrum, or whether you want a bit of nastiness in it. Not nastiness, you want a bit of mongrel and leadership.
Marler's playing against South Africa though, isn't he? almost.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think with 4 games, I think with those 3, you'd expect probably everyone, maybe not everyone to get a start, but all 3 to feature in the autumn.